It's, we're not, real professionals. Well, greetings and salutations, test takers. This is Dean Penny, aka the Series 7 Guru, coming to you from my studio here in fabulous Las Vegas with our always very special guest, the Test Geek himself, Brian Lee, managing member of Test Geek Exam Prep LLC. Tell us what series exam you are taking and where you are joining us from, if you'd be so kind. We do this every Tuesday. And if you have a question, once we get the housekeeping out of the way, if you have a question, put it in the format of what series you're taking, SIE or 7, and then your question, so we can, kind of get a better idea. And, then we can it's easier for us to pull the questions out too from the chat if we see that, capital Q or your exam. Hopefully we'll have some victorious test takers join us as well. We always start with a debrief from victorious test takers. Now, remember, every draw is going to be different. So don't be counting on somebody's draw. I mean, I'm wishing for you a dream draw. Some people get a face of death draw, but learn the thing. This person, these are combined kind of debriefs, but spreads, no surprise. There's 8 testable things you need to know about a spread. I will link to a little short spread lecture that I have. You got to be able to determine it's a spread, debit or credit, exercise or expire, widen or narrow, gain loss, break even, bullish or bearish. Types of preferred. I think I finally figured this one out, Brian. I, for a long time, been getting people telling me they got more preferred stock questions than they were expecting. And I never know how to respond to that. But this person told me, Brian, that there are some test prep vendors and corporate trainers that are kind of telling people that preferred stock is not something that is that testable. And so maybe that's where that's coming from. I have never said such a thing, right? I mean, you need to know cumulative versus straight versus participating versus convertible, certainly. They said they got a question on a ladder bond portfolio, kind of odd for 7. That shows up in NASAA exams more often than I would expect to see it in a 7, but that's simply just a portfolio where you have different bonds coming due at different times. This one always comes up. Contrasting ETFs with traditional open-end mutual funds. No surprise there. I mean, that's definitely something you got to do on the 7. Roth versus traditional, again, no surprise. I wish people pay attention to this, Brian. One margin question. Don't overdose on margin. It is not target rich. Maybe max 3 or 4. Now, I don't know if this person is joining us again this week, but I think we had somebody last week. She said you had like 12 margin questions. That's wild. That's like, I'm not going to call her a liar. I'm just going to say, man, I've never heard of such a thing, right? 2 partnership questions. These are both areas where test prep vendors just do their students a disservice. I mean, they just spend overkill on margin, overkill on partnerships. No general partner, no limited partner, no limited liquidity. No surprise tips, no surprise. Victoria's 6566 test taker. They said that they encountered some questions, no surprise, on donor advised funds. This would be, like Schwab and Fidelity are big in this. They have what they call a gift fund. And what you do is instead of donating to like your favorite charity, you donate to this donor advised fund, and then you direct the contribution you like to whatever charity you would like to have it go to. So they got a donor advised fund on the 6566. A ton of unethical behavior questions, no surprise. No surprise. Standard deviation definition. I think of variance when I think of standard deviation, Brian. I don't know what you think of it, but I think of the variance and how big that variance is. Brian is a baseball fan, and I wish I was a baseball fan because I know that a lot of baseball fans are serious math geeks in a good way. Like, batting averages and standard deviation between what they bat this year and what they bat next year.
That's where it all starts. It's exactly where it started for me. Yep.
There you go. This person said they didn't get any calculations, not one, but they did get asked about not the calculation, but rather what the math would be used for. In other words, why would you be doing CAPM or internal rate of return or Sharpe ratio? All right, so that takes care of some debrief from the previous week. Let's get rid of some housekeeping. We have a live stream overtime session today, and it's capped at 10. It's already maxed out, but you can book the next one by going to deantinneytutorings.setmore.com. This podcast is broadcast to YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, and I guess not Twitter now. What are we calling it? X. It's broadcast to, I guess, X. And then it's available on Spotify as a podcast tomorrow morning. If you need to reach me, it's deantinneytutoring.setmore.com is where you can register for classes or that live stream overtime. That's where you find that kind of stuff. We conclude all of our things with a drawing. It's a 30-minute coaching call. You need to claim it within 1 hour by sending me an email at deantheseries7guru@gmail.com. We talked about the question format. Tell us your exam, followed by a Q with your question, and Brian and I will do our best to try and answer that for you. We have 2 discounts codes. The best free supplement to your paid study materials is this YouTube channel. But if you're looking for a paid supplement, I think the best investment you could make is 2, Kaplan Q Bank and All In on Brian's video courses. For the Kaplan Q Bank, the 10% discount code is Guru10. For Brian's video courses, which include his PDFs, the 20% discount code is Guru20. Now, in terms of working your way around the channel, if you want to binge, you find your series and you find all the videos. SIE, you hit the button, 50 videos come up there, and suggested watch order. It's a buffet. Take what you like, leave what you don't. We also, don't forget, have a search bar. And it's, frustrating to me that people say, where can I find something on a combination? If you just put combination in the search bar on the channel, everything available will come up, or margin or municipals or whatever the case may be. So if you're not binging, but rather looking for a particular topic, that is the best way to find that kind of stuff. All right, well, let me get rid of our banners here. And let's get to our Q&A. Whoop. Series 7, Ben. All right. Ben's taking a Series 7. Nico and I did a coaching call. He did pretty good. We did suitability, and he's going Thursday morning. So we're going to be sending him some good testing energy, testing vibes. Suze is going to be a general securities principal. All right. That's always fun. Babysitting 7s. Taking the 7 next week, Nick. We're sending good test vibes. Naomi, a 7. Looks like we got a lot of 7s. Hello, Dean and Brian. Sat for the 66 yesterday, scored 72. Oh, man. I wish I'd spent more time on your videos. And yes, convertible preferred was definite, at least 5. Man, those scores are just so frustrating. I will link. I have a podcast episode. You failed. Is it over? Spoiler alert, it's not. But I have some steps, 5 steps I think you should take to, how to respond to that misfortune. It's certainly misfortune. So I don't want to put additional pressure on you, but you've been in the cave. You saw the dragon. It wasn't a drive-by. You got a good look at him. I think next time you go in that cave, I think you'll get him. I think you'll take him out. So while that hurt is fresh, so it was Saturday, this is Tuesday, what I would suggest is getting the PDF of the NASA test specifications. And I would go through each item on that and put a plus, 0, or minus next to each item. Plus means you felt like you were above par and that was not a problem for you. 0 means you're at par. You can certainly bring things above par, but par means 0. And then minus means things you need to work on. Now, the other thing I would tell you is make sure you overlearn everything, because every draw can be different. And you don't want to count on that you're going to get the same draw and not put in the effort to bring everything above par. 7 on 7. I like it, Diana. Did you do that on purpose? Is that a numerology, I think they call it? Did you go to my sister-in-law who has her crystal balls? Well, not crystal balls, I should say crystals. And she does all that higher universe stuff and law of intention and where you should sit things. 7 and 6 weeks. Nigel, I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Nigel, LinkedIn. Thanks for joining us on LinkedIn. I'm always worried about LinkedIn because their broadcasting LinkedIn is a little more complicated than it is the other ones. Getting ready to schedule 90. Oh my God, you definitely need to schedule. You know, there's no sense in waiting, man. I mean, I would be aggressive. If somebody chickens out, I'd take their things. I hope you have a U4 already filed. I hope you're not in this holding pattern with scores like that where you're not able to go test. Got the test geek material. There we go. Woohoo. You know, Rudy, you know, Brian likes talking to you. So I'm available as well. But I always tell Brian, I get aggravated when people want to talk to me about Brian's content. I'm like, I've told you what Brian's question is. I've showed you the rationale. I've told you my rationale. Please call Brian. He's more than happy.
I'm here.
You know, he's a nice guy. You know, he's a nice guy. And
Yeah.
you know, usually it's Brian. It's one of those questions. It's not a gotcha question. So Brian has what I call a gotcha question is, so you thought you knew it. And Brian has some questions that are not gotcha questions, but he's asking a very specific thing. And then in the answer that he gives you something that's a little vaguer. And then, you know, people get upset when they're wrong. But by the way, that is the test. The test is allowed to mark you wrong on right answers if there was a better answer available. If there's a better answer available, that's what you're supposed to answer. Monday, Jackson, kind of incredible. You know, we're over 2 million views. We're coming up on 20,000 subscribers, Jackson. I don't usually pay attention to the analytics on YouTube, but I went in there today to see where our viewers are. Half of my viewers are from New York.
Wow.
I'm kind of proud of that. I don't know why I'm proud of that. You know, if you can make it there, you can make it anywhere. Right? So.
Okay, Frank.
Happy Tuesday. Thank you, Trina. Man, it's been a long Tuesday. I have been tutoring all day, right up till 5 o'clock. So I'm not at my best right now, but oh well. Can we clarify taxation on variable annuities? We certainly can. Do we want to do a whiteboard on this one, Brian, or we want to do it verbally?
Well, it shouldn't take long.
I don't think so.
Yep.
Oh, I'm sorry. I gave you me instead of Brian. There we go.
So our contributions, of course, are after-tax contributions. So whatever we put in there is our cost basis, right? That's why these are considered non-qualified. That's the term you'll often see on 65 and 66, probably the 7 as well. But that money has already been taxed. It's only the earnings that are taxed and is not taxed until you take distribution. And they are always taxed as ordinary income. There are no capital gains in retirement plans. So whether it's non-qualified annuities, whether it's IRAs, 401ks, there's never any capital gains. They're always ordinary income. If you take these monies out prior to 59 and a half, you always get the 10% penalty. That's it.
Yeah, I think it's very testable, Will, to have a general understanding of variable annuities, right? And then if you annuitize, turn it into an income stream, part of that check is going to be a return of your own capital, and part of it's your own taxes. I think that was excellent, Brian. Nice little overview indeed. Now you've got to step back into the frame. Taking the 7-1 week, what is the most recommended videos or lectures on investment vehicles? Again, I would go into the playlist. There's Brian's one of them, right? I would go to the playlist, the video section, hit popular, and the most popular videos will come up. The most popular video on all my channel is tips, tricks, and memory aids for the Series 7. It's got 71,000 views, and that will put it in order. Some of those most popular videos are not 7. They're, SIE, they're other things. But I wouldn't consider popularity to be a recommendation. However, other test takers have found those to be helpful. So for whatever that's worth, maybe you want to skim like the comments and see what people say. I think you should be best prepared for function 3, which is investment vehicles. It's 91 questions. And the vast majority of those are going to be options, mutual funds, and muni bonds. And so my recommendation would be go heavy on options. Now, I would warn you, my option playlist, you could be here for 3 weeks watching. There's hundreds. I'm not exaggerating. There's like 100 hours of videos there. So the 3 that I would recommend for options, I have a basic option class replay. So you can either watch the class replay or you can just watch the lecture. They're pretty similar. One has participants. The second video in the series, so that's basic options, and it's stock plus options. And that would be, your covered calls, your protected puts. And then the last one is advanced options. That's the third video in the series. And those three would be all of options. And munis, I will link to the playlist for options. And then in munis, same thing. You can put munis in there, but I have three. I have three. I have a muni for the test function of content outline. I have underwriting munis, and I have a muni lecture. And then mutual funds, I have a lecture as well as some replays of tutoring on mutual funds. I have a really good mutual fund tutoring. Sometimes when I have a good tutoring session, I'll say, Brian, this was a great session for you and I. Is it okay if we share this with others? And sometimes people say yes. Sometimes people say, no, Dean, my private business is my private business. I go, okay, whatever. But I've got some really good tutoring replays on mutual funds as well. And so I'll try and give you some the best of, so to speak, in the video description replay.
And on my paid video course, they're all separated into comments.
Yeah, there's something to be said. Let's just go back. There is something to be said. I've told Brian there's something to be said for giving Brian, let's call it $100 to make editorial decisions for you. So me, like I say, the problem, again, it's a good problem, I guess, if you like abundance, but there's literally 600 hours of content on my channel. There's, on the series 7, there's 6 or 7 playlists. And so that does become a challenge for you to make it. It's self-service. Like, listen, 2,300,000 views. I can't have 50 people emailing me saying, hey, Dean, what video should I watch? So the channel self-service. With Brian, the video courses are set such that you don't need to make a decision. He's made it for you, and you can watch Brian do the entire course, whatever course it may be, in video format. So, yeah.
Dean, I come across almost everybody I come across now have actually watched both of ours. Yours as well as mine. And that's perfect.
Yeah, I think we wouldn't, Brian and I wouldn't collaborate if we didn't think if we thought it was going to be disconcerting to you to watch Brian and watch me, we probably wouldn't collaborate. But we both trust each other and how we do things. And so yeah, that doesn't surprise me at all, Brian. A lot of people watch Ken and watch me as well. We're entirely different people. But again, I don't think you should be monogamous at all in your study effort. I don't think it personally, whether it's using the Kaplan Q Bank and supplementing your past perfect or your STC or vice versa, or using Brian or using me or whoever. I mean, make sure you shoot every round in your chamber, right? These are all arrows in your quiver. So
whatever it takes to get the key.
There you go. There you go. Saturday morning, I like that. I like Friday a little better, Dizzy, because Will is Friday night. He's got the 7 on Saturday morning, and you, Dizzy, will be done. Right? So that's going to be pretty cool. Why is a long put more suitable than a short call when the customer is long? Well, it depends what you're trying to accomplish.
It's not more.
Yeah, it's a different thing. So are you trying to protect, or are you trying to generate additional income?
That's it.
So it's not more suitable. It's more suitable if what you're trying to do is to protect the stock position. It's less suitable if what you're trying to do is generate additional income, right? So, it depends what you're trying to do in terms of that. It looks like Brian's going to his board, so let's give him some board space here.
I'm sure many of you are familiar with the options graphic. I don't want to go.
Yeah, I call it a matrix. What do you call it? The aerobic thing?
I call it the options aerobics diagram.
There you go. Call up, put down.
Well, the long put or the short call are not more or less suitable. It depends on what the secondary objective is. Just like Dean said, whether you want to protect the stock or you're looking to generate income. There can be some synonyms for those terms: guard against risk, increase return, profit, that kind of stuff. But one is not more suitable than the other. It depends ultimately on the secondary.
Yeah, the suitability questions, that's why they're so challenging, because the 3 styles of questions we get on the test are recognition, practical application, and judgment. And almost all suitability questions are judgment, and they turn upon the context of the question itself. Right. I'd much rather get, for example, Nico, A customer is long 100 shares at 53 and buys a 50 put for 4 and get asked break even or something like that, because that isn't a judgment question. That's simply you either get it right or you get it wrong in terms of math. So we don't want to give a practical application. About 10% of the exam are judgment questions. And that's where we have to read the question and based on the context of that question, do it. Now, I would tell you, Nico, that you do have a 50-50 here. If we call each of those quadrants A, B, C, D, long call, short call, long put, short put, that's the answer set. You should know that if you're long the stock, you got a 50-50 because you need to be able to sell the stock you just bought. So there's no circumstance in which you would be long the stock and you would go long a call or short a put because that would buy you more stock. You're either going to go long a put to protect the stock position. You're going to put in a floor. The floor is going to be that strike price. Or you're going to agree to sell high stock you just bought low to generate additional income. And there you're putting in a ceiling. I don't know if that makes sense. Not testable, just Dean talking. I think of buying the put is doing construction and putting in a floor on that stock. And I think of that call as putting in the ceiling. That's not bueno. But if we're putting in the ceiling, I'm going to bring in some money. And that will give me some price decline protection. I would think, Nico, you're going to see more covered call questions than protective put questions.
Yes.
Right. I think that you need to have a handle on that covered call or what we call a buy right. I think that's more testable. But hedging is testable right now. If it was a short stock position, you would buy the call. Okay, what's next here? Series 7 soon, Jacob. I like that soon. I don't know what soon is, but yeah, I think sooner is better than later for sure, right? I'm teasing, but both Jacob, Brian and I consider myself, I won't throw Brian into this unless he wants to be thrown into it. I think of myself as a fake accountability partner. I'm not really an accountability partner because I can't make you do things. I can't hire you. I can't fire you. However, I think Brian and I both agree that when developing a study plan, it should be reverse engineered. And what I mean by that is if I were your real accountability partner, I said, Jacob, we don't want to, not have a date certain where we're testing. And maybe that's what you're saying, you're testing soon. But for those of you who are kicking off your study plan, I think the kickoff should be picking a date, 8 weeks out or 12 weeks or 6 weeks out. And from that, then reverse engineering, your study blocks and your timeline and all that kind of stuff. So I'm not sure, Jacob, you mean you already have a test date and it's soon, or you're going to schedule soon. Right on, Brian. I'm so with you. I just was working with somebody today and I was so pleased that she, we're doing remediation. We have time to do it. I get really upset. I can't figure out how to do this on my tutoring booking page where I won't let you book if you're testing tomorrow because there's no way to do that. But I just had this week somebody who booked tutoring like the night before. And that's just really difficult because, what are we going to do the night before? I mean, we can do a little rah-rah, I guess, but.
There it is.
There you go, right? So test
That's
date.
all my 3-pillar process: textbook and QBank, video supplements, free or paid, right? And then the last week to 10 days, you evaluate and remediate. Dean and I are absolute simpatico on all of that.
Yeah. Jackson, Series 6. Good news, Jackson. Oh, boy, I like your profile picture. You look like a professional for sure. Jackson, I'm a Marine, and I always love it when I see somebody who has tied a tie properly. I don't know. From here, it looks like it might be a Windsor knot, and it looks like a pretty good tie. Lots of overlap on your SIE, Jackson. So make sure you pay attention to customer accounts, retail communication, variable annuities, mutual funds. But I think your SIE should pay dividends in that study plan. Any comments on the 6 itself, Brian?
No, that's exactly right. That's exactly right.
Yeah.
SIE just feeds right into the 6. Yep.
Yeah. Well, we have a heat dome here in Vegas and we're Arizona. And I get it, man. I didn't mean to do a pint of ice cream, but I did. It tasted pretty damn good. And then I know you're not supposed to when you're worried about heat exhaustion be eating ice cream. You're not supposed to do water. Damn, it tasted good. All right, victorious test taker in the house. Happy Tuesday. So if you want to know anything about the test itself, I don't know why you wouldn't want to believe Brian and I, But, you can always get confirmation from successful test takers. How do you get a tutor session? You go to deantinneytutoring.setmore.com and you can book tutoring sessions there. I think I have it here somewhere. Let me see if I have it. There you go. And that's how you book tutoring with myself. I'm pretty expensive. I'm $225 an hour. My friend Brian, assuming you can get him, and are you still at 90, Brian?
Yeah.
So arbitrage opportunity. I wish I could figure out a way to book Brian for like 150 and pay him 90. So that's a good old me. Brian, you can send him an email at brian@testgeekexamprep.com, and he too is available for tutoring as well. Back to our comments. Jack says they use Brian SIE and pass. There we go. Already enrolled for his 7 content. Yeah. Our business, I think people, Jackson, overcomplicate the business Brian and I are in. I mean, basically, if people pass their exam and we contribute to the testing vehicle, people are happy. And if people miss the mark, then we hope they don't blame us. Serious stuff going. How do you give your advisor temporary discretion? I've never heard of temporary discretion. Right? When you're out of town, I mean, you're going to have to give me full discretion and revoke it would be what I would say. No, I'm not sure if that's a practice question.
Are they referring to that temporary verbal discretion for IAs, right?
Might be. Yeah, I don't know. Even in that, usually that's the 15-day thing. I've never seen anybody see that on the 7. So how do you give
I'm not either. I'm not either. Not on the 7.
If I were I'm just going to play branch office manager, Noah. And if you came to me and said your customer is out of town and he wants to give you like 2 weeks of discretion, I'm going to say there's no such thing. I mean, he can give you full trading authorization. He can revoke it when he gets back in town. That would be what I would say. I've never heard of a temporary discretion. Have you, Brian, heard of a temporary discretion?
Like I said, that up to 10-day verbal, and then after that, it has to be in writing for IAs.
For IAs.
It does not apply to broker-dealers.
Yeah. So if you have that particular question, Noah, so I will help you on any question you have. If it's a Kaplan question, it's easy. Just send me an email with the QID and I can see what you're looking at backstage. But if it's, if it's past perfect or STC, then you got to cut and paste it and send it to me that way. And
I just don't know that on the Series 7. That's a 65, 56 question.
Yeah. Ben, I'm very rarely surprised. And Ben, I was so surprised on that you missed your mark. So 88. Yeah, I'm with you. You must have just, it's one of those random kind of events when you are working hard, you're dedicated, you're just plenty organized. So you just have to forget it happened. I mean, and your point, just get back on that horse. So very surprised to hear that from you. 80s, I think that's great. Yeah. I think you should definitely, choose all the topics at some point. I just had somebody I'm working with today and they haven't done a practice final. And what they've been doing is chapter quizzes. And remember, Brian and I both say, you got to do a practice exam. I said, give me the score tomorrow. We don't really know where you're at until you take a practice exam. So, until then you can think you're great, but we don't know whether you need remediation. So you're not taking that first practice exam 7-10 days out to learn anything. You're doing that to get a mark of where you're at. Right. So I think people misinterpret what practice exams are for. We're not trying to stack practice exam upon practice exam upon practice exam to learn stuff. I had Brian, a guy who told me he did 3 practice exams in one day. He was so proud of him. I said, what a waste. Total waste of your time. You can't convince me you got any meaningful mark on that third one. I said, listen, one a day. 1 in the morning, then remediate in the afternoon, go over the things you missed, take some notes on that. Maybe if you want to do 1 a day, perhaps, but you can use that second day for remediation. If you're 10 days out and you do 1 every other day, that's like, 5 practice exams, then you have a good data set. Again, the data set isn't about learning. You certainly learn why you're missing questions, certainly. But, again, what we're trying to do is know whether or not you have a margin of safety. Do you and I know that you're going to pass? Right? That's what we'd like to be able to do is say, no worries, man. I had a great student. I mean, this is really just a great spot. I wish I could be in this spot with more people. She's testing Wednesday. She checked in Monday. She goes, what should I do Tuesday? I said, anything you want. You know, you're in a spot where all you got to do is stick the landing. And so if you want to do a practice exam, do it. If you don't. If you want to take the day off, you know, and that's where you want to be. That's hard to get to that spot. It's a lot of work. She deserves kudos to be in that spot. Sure enough, she passed, you know, so. Well, there you go. Love it. Love it. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for joining us. We love our LinkedIn folks, Jacob. Thanks for joining us from New York. I told you my analytics are telling me that half our viewers are from New York. I told you I'm proud of that. I'm proud of that. I used to spend a lot of time in New York. Not so much anymore. Well, Jake, you do definitely need to know about underwriting for muni bonds. You definitely need to know the spread. You definitely need to know the components of the spread, the management fee, the additional takedown, the selling concession of the total takedown. I'm going to make a note. I'm going to link. I have an underwriting video on munis. You know, they're going to have a question, Jake, on the 7 where they're going to say your firm was a member of the selling group. The selling concession was a 0.5 point, for example, and you sold 50,000 bonds. What was your compensation? 50,000 bonds times a 0.5 point, $5, 250 grand. I would know divided versus undivided syndicate, right? You know, divided where you're Western, individual responsible, Eastern, undivided. I would definitely know bond counsel, the legal opinion. Definitely know that. I would definitely know the notice of sale. So yeah, it's target rich. That's definitely target rich. I would definitely know that a financial advisor to the municipal issuer can't switch roles. There's lots of test fodder there, right? G37, campaign contributions. So next Monday, Jake, I think that's definitely something that you need to remediate. I would definitely remediate that because that will pay dividends on Monday for you. Brian, any comments on underwriting for muni bonds?
No, we hear this question every week, don't we?
Yeah.
And it's something that definitely needs to be studied and learned for the.
Yeah, that's right. Immunity suitability, Jackson, I think is a little more straightforward than maybe you're getting tripped up on test prep vendor practice questions, for example. It's pretty simple. Anytime we can turn a suitability question into a math question, I'm a big fan of that. Because again, if we can make it a math question, then it isn't a judgment question. And so, Jackson, on the test, it's going to be pretty simple. Should the customer buy a taxable yield corporate bond, or should the customer buy a tax-free municipal bond? And that's going to be based on their tax bracket. And we're going to have to know tax and tax-free equivalent yields. I'll post a little video for you that I made just on doing that math and deciding what the client should do in terms of, you know, which one. Now, again, I would defer to Brian on this. I would also know there is a binary suitability question, Jackson, where I say, are you subject to the AMT? And if you're subject to the AMT, then a private activity bond, an industrial development revenue bond, or a public purpose non-essential would be an inappropriate, unsuitable recommendation. But I don't think, unlike the previous Jackson, what Jake said, I don't think if you miss the mark, it's going to be because of suitabilities of munis. One other point, it's very important to know where you're resident and what bond you're considering purchasing, because reciprocity doesn't apply state to state. So if I'm in California as a resident, I buy a Nevada bond, California can and will tax me. And you're definitely going to get a question about where does it not matter where you live in the United States of America that would be tax-free, whether you're in California or New York, and that would be territories. The answer there is Puerto Rico. They're not going to ask about the U.S. Virgin Islands or U.S. Micronesia or American Samoa. It's going to be Guam, Puerto Rico, right? And then stupid but testable. Are we clear Alaska and Hawaii are not territories of the United States government? Yeah, Brian.
I have one question for Jackson and anyone else taking a Series 7. Is a municipal bond suitable for grandma? 72-year-old grandma. Are munis suitable for 72-year-old grandma?
Well, I need to know, you know, again, I'm probably overthinking it, which every test taker do. I need to know more about grandma. Can you tell me more about grandma?
That's exactly right. Some people will associate munis with conservative, safe investment. But for test purposes, it's all about grandma and everybody else.
Yeah, that's right.
bracket. That's
is grandma?
I don't think suitability should be an issue for munis. It's those in the highest fact bracket.
Yeah, is
grandma is on Social Security only. She ain't
yeah.
buying a muni.
Yeah, grandma. Yeah, if grandma's Estee Lauder, Estee is no longer with us, but trust me, Estee Lauder, she could certainly use some muni bonds.
Exactly.
Yeah, Brian is old school, man. He's the OG. He's still out there using a whiteboard. So God bless him, right? No PowerPoints for Brian. I'm jealous. I have a whiteboards in the studio, and I at one point was thinking I would do whiteboards. So yeah, Brian has. He's got. I can now tell. Let's see if they can tell. So if you join us, Brian's kind enough to join us most Tuesdays. Unless he has other things going on. But I've got to the point now where I can tell which location he's at based on his whiteboard. So whether he's in Seattle or Las Vegas, right? So I said, let me guess, you're in Seattle because this whiteboard looks a little bit different than the other one. I think they're a little too thin. So Exam, FX, and training consultants, I think a little thin. I highly recommend a supplement. What I would tell you to do, Ricky Rich, is on the channel, I will post a link to Brian's Teskey Series 7 practice final. And you can watch me do that, hit pause and answer it. And it has very strong correlation to the actual exam. So I'm not real comfortable with the correlation of a test score or practice score from that. And then please pay attention to what I'm about to tell you. It just is aggravating that people don't pay attention to this. For $20 with the 20% discount. If you want, you can just buy the PDF. I don't sell PDFs. I don't do downloads. Like people ask me, can you send me the slides? The answer is no. But for $20, you can actually buy the physical version of that, and you can do it yourself that way. And then what I love about doing that physical version is I tell people to turn that into a poor man's flashcard. That's right. And what I tell them to do is take Brian's physical dead tree PDF and just highlight the questions, the right answers, and the rationales. And I tell them the night before or morning of or both, Ricky, just to read Brian's questions and right answers. So I'm a big believer. That would give you an independent score. Now, I have other practice exams up there as well. I have Kaplan practice exams. I have Mometrics practice exams. So you can beef up the training consultants if you'd like. I would suggest at least doing Brian's practice final just to see how that compares to Exam FX. I don't want to scare you. There's many people who are very happy with them and they pass, but it's not on my recommended vendor list. If you told me you have Kaplan, Pass Perfect, STC, I have issues with Pass Perfect, but I don't think you're at risk. I do think training consultants Exam FX could put you at risk. Brian, you want to get involved in that or just stay out of it?
Nope. You're absolutely right. I feel the same way.
Yeah, I think Brian told me that, or no, you told me that was AD Banker. They're nice people. Exam FX. Yeah, I got a funny. People tell me they listen. Tina is the person who does the videos at Exam FX Training Consultants, and I made a little short, and my short was "There is no alternative," and the acronym for that is TINA. And so I had made a short, and I said "Tina is dead" with an exclamation point. Oh my God! Tina's dead. I go, no. Watch the video. There is no alternative. We certainly can't review Muni MSRB rules in a live stream that lasts an hour because that would take us an hour. But I would tell you, make sure you know not so much the rule number like G37, but it's not really whose rule it is. Do you know the rules? And I would definitely know the gift or gratuity rule, G20, $100. I definitely know G37, campaign contributions, $250. I would definitely know, by the way, just for your notification, the MSRB has no enforcement power. They just publish rules, and they have A rules, administrative rules. They have D rules, definitional rules, and they have G rules. For example, a D rule would be nominal quotes are for informational purposes only. I would know that MSRB rules require you to disclose yield to call on a bond at a premium. I would know that MSRB rules do not require you to disclose catastrophe call provisions. That would be in the trust indenture, but not something I need to disclose to you. Campaign, I would know, is $250. So when people miss their mark, very rarely is it the rules, whether it's FINRA rules or MSRB rules. But there's a quick overview of that. You can also go to Emma, a great resource, the electronic municipal market access that the MSRB has, and lots of information there on official statements and all kinds of stuff. So hope that was helpful. Did you think any other MSRB rules that I might have missed?
You hit more than enough.
Okay, there you go. Bought STC, purchased Test Geek study guide and practice file. Woohoo! I think it's a good investment. Great investment. Different types of preferred stock, Juan. So yes, we can. The two biggest ones to get a handle on are cumulative preferred versus straight preferred. Those are the different ones. Now, the key about straight versus cumulative. Straight, there is no arrears. There is no arrears. I always joke, wouldn't it be great if your phone bill was straight non-cumulative? Because that means if you missed it, they would say, try better next time. That's not what happens, right? It goes into arrears. They're definitely one on the test, very high probability, going to give you a scenario in which an issuer did not pay the full dividend. So I say, for example, it's a 5% preferred stock. You need to know that 5% on par is $5. And then they'll give you a sequence of years and some dog and pony about why they didn't pay the dividend. They'll say like in 2014, they paid 4 instead of 5. In 2014, they paid 3. In 2015, they omitted the dividend entirely. Then they'll say, how much must they pay to the preferred stockholders before they can pay a dividend to common? They're testing on two things. Can you do the math? And do you know it's a senior security? It's very testable. The preferred stock is a senior security. It has preferential treatment in dividends, no dividend to common if you're in arrears to preferred, and preferential treatment in liquidation. You're second to last in line. It's senior to the common in dividends and liquidation. So then you have to calculate that and say, okay, now where most people blow that scenario on is forgetting that you got to take care of the current dividend as well, right? So once you figure out what the arrears are, then you got to pay the current dividend. Participating allows you to participate in excess earnings beyond some stipulated amount, right? So you might get more. We say that the preferred stock dividends are stated as a maximum, not a minimum, but in a participating, it's not stated as a maximum. It's stated as a minimum, and you might get additional pays based on that. And the convertible allows you to switch your status, and I would definitely be able to know the conversion ratio, and I'd be able to calculate parity, right? So definitely. I see, Brian, this is a pretty good overview. This is a live stream. I would just add to your whiteboard there. Do you think, Brian, we need to add adjustable rate preferreds or not?
No.
Okay. Brian is tight on his editorial decisions.
No, I wouldn't.
If he doesn't think that it's going to be there, he doesn't want to talk about it.
If I don't think it's a right answer to any test question.
Well, Nico, I think Debrief Brian's exam or go back and watch option videos. Having spent some time with you on the coaching call, I don't think you were that wobbly in terms of suitability. I mean, distinguishing between a long put and a covered call is not something that I think is going to put you at risk. So I would prefer that you're trying to get some marks. So I don't like the deep dive. You got tomorrow, Wednesday, right? So, I think I would just queue up a simulated exam and get a score and let me know that score. And I've had people get as low, Nico, as a 58 on a Kaplan exam and pass. It's not where you want to be. I'd be surprised if you're not high 60s or low 70s on a practice exam. And I think that make you feel better going into your exam Thursday than, doing a deep dive or watching option videos, because then you're not going to get closure. I would do something that gives you closure. I'm going to do this and then I'm done. And I think I would do a simulated exam. What are your thoughts, Brian, on that? You got any thoughts?
If I feel uncomfortable about hedges, I might watch a hedge option video.
There you go. Okay. That will take you. I have breakouts on that. So you don't have to watch the whole class.
That's right.
They're little I call them chunks where I carve it out, and you could watch a protective put and you could watch a covered call, and you've been to it for probably 20 minutes.
There you go.
Third time, boy, you gotta. Well, target areas are always the same. The target areas are function 3. Munis, options, and mutual funds, package products. So that's what I would hit. All right. You already have your 9. Will that make you tomorrow a sales supervisor? Let's hope. Difference in notification and response by a firm when a rep is selling away for compensation received and no compensation being received. Well, no compensation is notification. Compensation is a positive affirmation from the firm that, you're going to be allowed to do that. Next week. Love it. All right. I love it. Semper Fi, Ashton. Driving right from San Diego. You going back to Camp Pendleton? Well, I would imagine you're a reservist. Are you an active duty Marine still? Maybe he's on his way to Oceanside. Yeah. When I was in boot camp, I was a Hollywood Marine. Hollywood Marines are Marines that go to boot camp at Marine Corps Recruit Depot in San Diego, which I think is sometimes harder because you can actually see the real world from the recruit depot. But you leave to go to the firing range about halfway through your training. And, we have a saying in the Marine Corps that every Marine is a rifleman. Anyways, this is probably being new. I saw this hill and I thought, we're start marching towards this hill, more like a mountain. And I couldn't believe we were actually going to hump over this thing. And we were going to actually, literally march to the top and march down. I'll be damned. That's exactly what we did. I was like, wow. Here's some debrief from Cynthia. Short hedge questions. Quite a few margin taxation, 2 on variable, 1035 exchange. Wow. Usually the 1035 exchange question, I think Brian has one in his practice exam, is what you can't do. You can't go from, is it annuity to life? I think, Brian, you can't do.
Correct.
It's one of those. You can't go to one of those.
Yeah.
Oh, I love we're getting all these LinkedIn and getting all these sales supervisors. Well, welcome. Our live stream is for all FINRA NASAA exams. That includes 9s, 10s, and 24s. Thank you so much. Taking the 9 next week. How likely is a question that requires you to calculate max gain on butterfly spread? I think it's very, very unlikely.
Exactly.
That being said, I do have a video on butterfly spreads and those kind of things. And I will post that for you, Quentin, at 4723 in the video replay. But I think it's very low probability, Brian.
Absolutely. Yeah. The 9 is not it's not the 7. It's more about compliance of options.
It is. And I think it's kind of like what we say, Quentin, about the 65, 66. I feel that people put themselves at risk on 65, 66 because they don't really understand the flavor of the exam. And they think they're going to have to do all kinds of math, and they spend hours and hours doing the math. And then they don't get the basic stuff like mutual funds and preferred stocks and investment vehicles. And I think that happens on the 9 too. Well, people think the flavor is going to be registered option principal, and you're going to have to do ratio rights and butterfly spreads and condors, and it's so not that. So, yeah, but I'll link that for you. The key on any sophisticated option strategy, Quentin, is to make sure you can do a T and you can track money in and out of the account. I get covered call. The max gain is the break-even strike. That's true. The max loss is not the net premium to zero. It's the break-even to zero, right? You're going to take your break-even. You're going to go to zero, right? Anything else? Well, we just talked about suitability. You go, why do you do it? To generate additional income. Jackson, a Marine. I should know he's a Marine. Is you a Marine too, Jackson? How did I know based on that tie? Look at that military bearing, man. Decorum, we call it. Decorum. All right. Man, we're going to turn this thing into a Marine Corps live stream. Seen it twice. Not sure what you mean by seeing it twice. I missed, Noah, what you saw twice. I think, no, can you put that back on the chat? I think I missed what you mean, what you saw twice. Oh, covered call, perhaps? Yeah, I would think you could easily see 4 or 5 covered calls on the Series 7. Nico, it's long and low, long and low. The bonds that have the longest maturity and the lowest coupon are going to be most volatile. Your point, 0 coupon bonds have no income stream, and therefore they will be the most volatile. right? A 20-year zero is going to be more volatile than a 20-year treasury bond with a 3% coupon. Eli failed the 10 twice, missed it by 9. He did 2 midsections. Spice up my study time. I don't know. I don't have any spice up recommendations for study time in season. Do you have any spicy things, Eli? Brian, that people can do to spice up their study effort?
Spice up my study time. And season it. Sounds like a ex-chef.
Yeah. Yeah, it does, Jackson. There is a lot of overlap, right? Particularly the questions about A shares, B shares, C shares, overlap between closed end and open. And yeah, I do.
Break points.
Break points, better than tens. Absolutely. Kaplan QID. I will, if I don't do this tonight, I can't do it on the screen because I can't bring that up. But I will make a note and I will make a video explication of this. And I will send that to you, or I will post it to the channel 1432627. What transaction is a BD? Well, maybe we can answer it now. Is a BD required to report to FinCEN? Why 10,000 in cash for fund shares and not 10,500 in cashier's check for fund shares, but source of funds is unknown? I think the cashier's check I'll have to look at the question, but I think both of these would require a CTR. I have given people cashier's checks and received a concurrency transaction report, right? So I don't know. Susan, I'll look up that QID. I'll check with the rationale, but as it stands and the answer set you provided me, I think both of those would trigger a CTR. What do you think, Brian?
And again, just like everybody else, I might be overthinking this. If this cashier's check came from a bank, then the bank did the CRT, right? The CTR. Yeah. So you're not going to do it twice.
Oh, I like that.
If a cashier's check from a bank, then the bank's already done the CTR.
Yeah, I'll look it up, Susan. I'll post it on the channel for sure. But I like Brian's rationale. So you see what Brian's saying? He's saying that whoever went and got the cashier's check from the bank, that was triggered a CTR. To do it again would be twice. However, I can tell you as a guy who over the years many times has gone to a bank and got a cashier's check for more than 10 grand, handed to somebody, that both of them filed a CTR. The bank and the person I gave the cashier's check to. So
other than that, it should be a CTR. Cashier's check should be a CTR.
Yeah. And then, by the way, the other test question I think is more likely on the actual exam is like the guy who I gave him the cashier's check was for $21,000. And let's say that I figure out he might file the CTR. So instead, Dean comes back with 3 cashier's checks for 7. That is the more likely test scenario, and that's called structuring. Exactly. And that would trigger the suspicious activity report. So I would think that would be more likely. I think you're more likely on the real test is to get the question about a SAR than a CTR. The other thing that definitely is test 124 is we have to conduct an annual AML test. We have to appoint an AML officer. And I had one today, Suze, I don't know if it was you, but I had a 24 ask me about, they missed the question. They said annually. But they weren't asked about the test. They were asked about when should you provide training in anti-money laundering? And the better answer was ongoing basis. And she was upset that she said annually, but no, your reps should be continually trained. So no, I'm not sure what people are saying no to. What tax bracket? I've got to know that on immunity. I think it's the grandma. I think I'm catching up to the grandma. We don't know the grandma doesn't have earned income. I think that was Brian's point, right? How do we know? You don't bring stuff into questions. If they say grandma has no earned income, well, then you can assume you can do that. But obviously no earned income.
That question is just a basic question I asked just to see where their head is about movies. Yeah. And half the people will immediately say yes because it's conservative, but that's not what a muni's purpose is.
That's right. That's right. So muni bonds are best for high net worth and
high tax bracket.
High tax bracket, right? So if you are sitting on $5 million in assets, but you have no income, you wouldn't buy a muni. So that's an exact version of what Brian was saying. I like it. He walked right into what Brian was talking. Well, I don't even know what you mean by the gray market, but you do get tested on the third market and the fourth market. The third market test question can best be characterized as listed securities traded over the counter. That's a test question. The third market can best be characterized as which of the following. There is no test question about the gray market. You do get tested about the fourth market. The fourth market test question can best be characterized as direct trading between institutions, right? So that is very much a test question about the definition of the third and the fourth market. In the fourth market, a lot of institutional investors choose to remain anonymous. And so they have trading platforms, ECNs, electronic communication networks, where they sometimes are referred to not gray market, but dark pool. A dark pool is a trading platform in the fourth market where people who are trading can choose to remain anonymous. And they still are going to have to report trades, that they do in their dark pool. So I'm not familiar with the term gray market. I don't know if that's a test prep vendor definition of something, but it's certainly not on the test. Brian, your thoughts? You ever hear somebody talk about the gray market?
Not once.
There's a public market, there's a private market, right? We're getting close to our drawing for the evening. And then we'll see some of you 15 minutes, 6:15 for live stream Zoom overtime session where we have a whiteboard. Amortization and accretion, well, they're the same thing for test purposes. So I don't think you're going to have to do the math, but if you buy a zero coupon bond for $500 with 10 years to maturity, you're going to make $500 over 10 years. And so that means every year you're going to accrete $50. And you're going to owe taxes on the imputed interest. You're going to owe taxes on the imputed interest there. Brian's showing it to you on the whiteboard there. So I would definitely know that if you buy an OID, originally issued discount, or a zero coupon bond, you can do straight line amortization upward. That's called amortization accretion. It kind of sucks because you're paying taxes on money you're not actually receiving. And then when you buy a muni bond at a premium, you have to do that downward, not a test term. That's called decretion. So you're either doing accretion up or decretion down. Again, it's the same thing. I call it decretion going down, but same thing. Where do you get the $20 PDF? I will put it up for you. You get that at, there you go. Boom. Right off the website, right? Is that where they get it, Brian? Or your website?
They get that. That's the video. That right there is the video platform.
Okay, and then the what's
that's my email. Yeah.
There you go.
So the website is just testgeekexamprep.com.
There you go. So you can get it there, $20. $20.
PDFs, downloadable PDFs.
It's just the PDF. So I get people calling me, oh, it's just the PDF. I said, that's what we told you it was. So if you want the full Monty, then you got to pay a little more money, right? You're welcome. Yeah, I always think, Chance, particularly in 9s, 10s, 24s, I think you do yourself a great service to have another Q bank. Seeing it asked different ways, I think, is productive. So I would highly recommend that. Yuma, Arizona. All right. Boy, it's hot out there, I'm sure, as well. I always go by Vermo. Is that what it's called? The Marine Corps Staging Depot is there. And it's always fun to see the tanks and the personnel carriers, all that stuff. They were asking about the no. Okay, thanks. Thanks, Noah. Next Friday, we'll come back after you pass next Tuesday. We love having victorious test takers in the house. See on your exam twice? Well, I would say the answer is you can't do it. So I'd be looking for the answer that says there's no such thing as temporary discretion. Yeah, well, boy, I tell you, a lot of people that are matriculating through the whole thing. They're doing SIE 7, 63, 9, 10. So. Well, decretion, as I mentioned. Sorry, I forgot, Brian. I apologize. I was doing so good until just now.
Yeah,
that's right. The first one. We're towards the end. I almost made it a perfect, producer. Sorry, Nico. I just gave you the quick debrief. I said decretion is for muni bonds, purchases premium. It's not a test term, but if I buy a muni bond for $1,200 with 10 years to maturity, I have to adjust my cost basis $20 a year. Accretion is for a zero coupon bond going up. Legal opinion is very testable. A legal opinion test question is done by a bond counsel.
Yeah.
It's done by a bond counsel. It can be unqualified or qualified. Very testable. And they're going to opine.
Three things.
Yep, there you go. You want to do it, Brian? You got it.
It attests to three things. One, that the issuer is authorized to issue the bond to begin with. Number two, it's exempt from the 33 Act, which means no registration, no prospectus required. And the third thing is the IRS has given it its official okie dokie that the interest is exempt from federal taxes. That's
very testable. And remember, unqualified, qualified means without reservation. That's good. Unqualified is bad.
Right.
Very testable. Okay. Well, I think it's a gray market. Well, Ben, send me the QID, and maybe it's a distractor. You know, the guy who does it is a guy named Bill James, and I'll call him and say, "What the hell, Bill? What are you bringing up gray markets for?" You're welcome. You're welcome. Should you do SIE in addition? No, just do your 6, Jackson. Don't be going backwards. Okay, well, there you go. So our mastery cap was pretty tough. All right, so let me grab the giveaway tool. Give me a sec here to grab the giveaway tool. And we're doing, I think, this one. And let's see, what are our words? What is the word to put in the chat for the drawing? What is the word for the chat in the drawing?
There you go.
Heat. I like it. Now, if you're going to participate in our drawing for the coaching call, you need to put that into the chat. Let me get our screen here. And let me make that full. And can you guys see the screen? Ryan, do you see the screen up there?
Yes, I do.
Okay, so put that in the chat. And then remember, the coaching call is 30 minutes. You can do with it what you will. We can talk about whatever you want, practice questions, or you can use it for tutoring. Coaching calls are free. Tutoring is paid money. You can assign it. You can share it. You can do with it what you will. All right, we got 15 entries. Anybody else want to participate? Going once. Going twice. Okay, let's do the drawing.
Drum roll, please. And the winner is... Yay!
Hey, Devin. So send me an email, deantheseries7guru@gmail.com. Claim your 30-minute coaching call. Again, I don't have to like having contingent liabilities. So if if don't get that in 30 minutes, then no coaching call for you. All right. So remember, inch by inch, your exam is a cinch, or as Brian says,
keep it simple. Stay with what you know. You take the test. Don't let the test take you.
All right, everybody. See you next Tuesday. P.S. I got an off-grid cabin. At some point, I'm going to try and do this off-grid. And so you can be my guinea pigs to see if I actually can host live streams from the off-grid cabin. So maybe 2 weeks from now, we'll go for that and see how it works. All right, everybody. See you next Tuesday. Bye-bye.